They may be watching you, but I'm watching them. This is Gabriel Custodiet. Just to let you know that the episode you're about to listen to is going to be great, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. If you're new to privacy or looking for a clear vision of next steps, start by going to escapethetechnocracy.com. All our cutting-edge analysis about escaping the surveillance grid occurs exclusively on our paid newsletter, Watchman's Torch, and in our world-class video tutorials. This podcast is just a preview. This is not some game for us. We live this stuff and we consult on it. Your support means we have no sponsors and can speak the unmitigated truth as we see it on this show. Check out the show notes and escapethetechnocracy.com. Welcome to the second edition of the Privacy Postmaster. I'm Gabriel Custodiet. I'm joined by Dallas from privacypost.io. And we're going to answer your questions that you sent in to podcast@watchmanprivacy.com. I got that wrong last time I said podcast@privacy.com. That's obviously not me. That's my bad. So podcast@watchmanprivacy.com. We're going to answer some of your questions. We have a topic to go over. Dallas was accosted by the police for doing something thoroughly American. We're going to have him tell the story and analyze that. And for starters, I've got a few housekeeping things to take care of. So just so that the audience is aware, we have a shop. It's called escapethetechnocracy.com. This is what keeps us going. This is what allows me when I receive emails from companies that say, hey, mention our service. I can say no because I work for you and not the sponsors. And there's not a single other show that comes to mind that can say that, right? They're working for their sponsors. I'm working for you. So I can say no because I'm principled. You as a listener need to be principled as well. This is not a free show. There's 200 episodes at this point. It's a lot of work that goes into this, so please consider supporting by going to escapethetechnocracy.com and purchasing a product from there. You can also leave donations and things of this sort. You can also do free things. For example, subscribe wherever you can, YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, wherever. Leave a review of one of my books on Amazon. And I just need to inform you, this is the way the world works. I'd rather you not leave a review than to leave a 4-star review. We'll just leave it at that. Share the show and all this stuff with other people. Get me invited onto another show. Okay. Email your favorite podcaster and say, hey, you need to get Gabriel onto your show. That would be incredibly useful. A couple updates on products. So our How to Evade SIM Swap PDF book, which all of you, I think everybody listening could benefit from that. We have an update. Okay. We've been getting some reports that a lot of these traveler SIM cards are routed through China. And so we have a little update in the book, a little bit of a disturbing thing. So we are always updating our stuff. We have an audio version of that book as well. Speaking of audiobooks, I have a new audiobook version of Privacy and Utopia, A History, which is another fantastic book that I know a lot of you are missing out on. So we have an audiobook. So if you have purchased that in the past, then you will have access to that. And if you purchase it now, you'll have both the PDF and the audiobook. Now, with that housekeeping out of the way, I'm going to bring Dallas in here. And Dallas, how are you going? Why don't you tell us about how you got accosted by the police?
Let's cut to the chase. It's great to be back. And I actually requested that we do this earlier than we were discussing because I am just hot under the collar here. This just happened yesterday. So let's just get down to it and just really dive in. So yesterday, I met a client here in Sioux Falls for lunch, and I went to I chose a pet-friendly place. He was driving through town and had 2 dogs, and so we went to a place that had a patio, and we met there, and we had lunch, and then we had a really good conversation. Great guy, and oh boy, I learned a lot from him. That could be a show in itself. And anyway, when we left, he went his way. He got in his truck and was heading back out of state. And then I was walking back to the office, which is about 4 blocks. And I like to walk to get my legs stretched. And I am walking down a main street, a thoroughfare. Well, just main avenue, my avenue. And, about 3 blocks, 2 to 3 blocks from the restaurant, I was surrounded by squad cars, 3 of them, 3 squad cars. I was aggressively accosted. I was forced to put my hands.
Did they handcuff you?
They did not. That's a good question. If I would have resisted in any way, I probably. They put my hands on top. I put my hands on top of my head. He took my weapon. He took the clip out, kind of disassemble it.
Let's also say that you are a big believer in concealed carry. And so, you live in a supposedly freedom oriented state, and that's a perfectly American thing to do, is to conceal carry. In fact, I hope every American is doing that. If not, you need to consider if this country is for you. But you're a big concealed carry guy.
Yeah, I am. And let's let's clarify that open carry, just carrying, conceal or open, both are allowed. In so yeah, and that's what South Dakota is. In South Dakota, the law enforcement that they support open carry. So this is why this surprised me. I was just walking down the street, normal casual walk. I wasn't doing anything odd, out of the ordinary, nothing. Gabe, I fly under the radar here in Sioux Falls. I don't, get. I haven't had a speeding ticket, no interaction with the law in at least 12 years. My record is squeaky clean, and I get surrounded by these squad cars, and the lead thug gets out, and he comes in hot, and he very aggressively, put your hands on your head, keep your hands away from your gun, you know, dot dot dot. And so he takes my gun out, as I said, takes it apart. He says, "Where's your permit?" And I said, "I don't need a permit. This is a constitutional carry state." And he says, "You need a permit." He says, "Where's your permit?" And I said, I don't need one, and I don't have one." He says, "Give me your ID." And I said, no, you don't. I'm not going to give you my ID." And then we argued about it. And so then he said to me, "You have to give me ID. If you're carrying a weapon, you have to give me your ID." And I didn't. I should have gone to the next step that you always rehearse, but I forgot. It's like you don't really plan for these situations. So I finally capitulated, and I gave
Wait,
him my
what's the next step?
the
What would
norm.
the
The
next step
normal
be?
next step would be, what am I being accused of? Why are you? Am I being detained? Yes or
Right,
no? Yes, you're
right.
being detained. What am I being detained for? A reasonable articulable suspicion, I think, is what it's called in the constitutional realm, when people get oh, you were doing this specific thing, you jaywalked or something, and then they cannot just say, "Well, I just want to share." They have to have a reason to check your ID, and he did not give me a good reason. But what you do then is you say, I want your supervisor here. I will not give you my ID, and I want your supervisor here." And then they should call the supervisor, and then you just keep on arguing, and you don't give them your ID unless you absolutely have to. And if unless you don't want to go to jail, or if you're like, "No, I'm going to stand my ground on this," they may even just bring you to jail for, resisting arrest or something like that, some bogus crime that will get thrown out right away. But that's just the way for them to get you to ID yourself. And then, but then that causes more logistics for them, so they may not do that, and they may just walk away. The second thing is, I should have emphasized, and I'll go over this, but my camera, my phone, I did not get it recording right away, which is probably a good thing, because if I went and quick and grabbed my phone, as I'm digging in my pockets while he knows I have a weapon, he may have alerted him and the three other law enforcement officers that had surrounded me. So I didn't have my recording until I gave him my ID, and he went back into his car. And then I grabbed my phone out and I started recording. As soon as I started recording, the whole situation changed. The attitudes changed of the other officers, the conversation. I quit answering questions. I don't answer questions. I don't answer questions. I don't answer questions. And when this officer was going back to his car, he was a city cop. He was one of Sioux Falls' finest. And he said, going to his car, that I need a permit if I conceal carry. And the state trooper that was right next to me said under his breath, "No, you don't." So anyway,
You would think that they would be pretty clear about that. I mean, that's kind of a big law to be aware of, and you don't need a permit.
yes, I would hope that, yeah. So in South Dakota, and that's one of the reasons I love this state, is you don't need a permit to conceal or open carry. You can get one, but you don't have to have one if you are in this state. You don't even need to be a resident of the state. You set foot in this state, and if you're federally allowed to have a weapon, a gun, you can carry it. Just no questions asked. So then he checked my ID and he came out of his car, and then I had my camera rolling, and then I started asking him questions like, "Why am I being detained?" And he couldn't answer. He just said, "Well, you look suspicious walking down by the courthouse." And I was a block and a half away from the courthouse at any given time. So I was trying to get him to explain to me, so you can just ID people and pull their weapon from them if they're walking past the courthouse. And he wouldn't answer my questions. He was just being a jerk. He was just a power hungry thug.
Power trip. It's why a lot of people get into policing.
Yep. So what I found out, once I got his badge number, I didn't even need to ask because I was recording, so I got his badge number and his name and stuff. And he's the first lieutenant of the second shift. So he's like the supervisor of the second shift team, the B team. and and I well, we'll talk a little bit more if you want to, but I've done a little bit more intel on him. But it was a rude awakening for me, Gabe, on how quickly our rights can be just thrown out the window. I am so mad at myself that I capitulated. I'd given my ID as quick as I did, and I'm mad at myself that I even had my ID on me.
If you didn't have your ID on you though, if you didn't give your ID, it could have. What do you think would have happened?
The same thing could have happened if they will ask for your name and your date of birth. I don't, and that's the other thing that I want to go through. I don't clearly know, and I need to research this. I took it for granted. Is what do the state laws require when you don't have an ID and you're being asked for ID? What do you need to give them? Just your name? Do you need to give them your date of birth? Second of all, to really clarify here, I was walking. Okay, when you are driving, no, you can't argue. Yeah, you can argue a little bit, but you got to present ID. You have to. That's just because of your driver's license. You have to present a driver's license when you're driving, and that is one of the ways that's easiest for them to get you. I suspect that they were waiting for when I left the restaurant that I was going to get into a car, and then they were going to find it really easy to ID me. I think there's some dots connected here and doing a little bit more research and stuff and some speculation. But the fact that I was walking, they waited longer, and finally he said, "F it, he's not getting in a car. I'm just gonna pull, I'm just gonna like surround him and force him to ID himself." And I think he was lying. It was like he was. I don't think he was uneducated on the if you're carrying a weapon, you have to show your ID. Cops lie all the time. They're allowed to lie. He lied. He just said, "Nope,
Right.
it's the law." And I didn't question it. I didn't say, what statute is that, please? Let me look on my phone. Okay, if that's the law, could you please call your supervisor? I would like to discuss this law and get the details of this before I present my ID. I didn't challenge him enough. I really should have slowed him down and made him work for this ID. I gave it up to him too
It's hard
quickly.
in the moment though. Like
It is.
you're surrounded by people who can kill you and who can get away
Yes.
with it.
Yep.
It's a little bit nerve-wracking for sure.
They can throw you to the ground. They can put you in handcuffs. They can
Well, they can kill you and you're resisting arrest.
absolutely. If I'm grabbing my phone and they think I have a gun, and oh yeah, you're right. And I'll have to say there was two of the city henchmen, and then there was a trooper, very professional, and the deputy sheriff, very professional. The deputy officer, he was very professional. They were asking me stupid questions that I wouldn't answer, but they were very professional. This second lieutenant, he was a thug, and he was just really like intimidating, and he was just a bully.
Let me get into some questions here. So you gave your ID, you answered the basic questions.
No, I didn't answer any questions.
Right. So every question that they asked you, they got your ID. Every other question was you just said, I don't answer
I
questions
don't answer
for an
questions. Yep.
entire 10
Yep.
minutes or whatever.
I don't. Is this your current address? I don't answer questions. Do you have a gun permit? Nope. No. Nope. 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 I don't answer questions. And as soon as I said I don't answer questions, that identified me as someone who understands the Constitution and is someone who won't put up with their intimidation shit when they pull you over and they're the law. I need to comply. Yeah. And as soon as I said I don't answer questions, the deputy he got it, and then he walked over to the squad car of the henchman, the lead henchman, and then he came back. I think he told me, he says he's remaining silent.
Did anything happen besides you had a serious disturbance for 10 minutes. You got everything back and you're on your way?
Yes, I got everything back and I was on my way. Once he checked my ID and realized I'm squeaky clean, and once I started recording, he completely backed down.
Your camera recording, when you pulled out your phone, who are you pointing at? How is that being done?
Yep. So I was pointing at the officers when I was speaking to them or they were speaking to me. I actually, and this is what I regret not doing, I did not get all of the officers in the camera, and I should have got the badge numbers of all the officers because they're from all different agencies. There was 3 different agencies there. Like I said, the deputy, this trooper, and then 2 of the city henchmen. And I did get the deputy very clear in the video, but I did not get the trooper his video, and also to verify that they were wearing cameras. That's the other thing that I should have done. Is said, is your camera recording? Is your camera recording, and get that on video? And if they said, oh no, it's not recording, then either ask them to record, or if they say yes, and then if this ever goes to discovery, and they say, oh, I wasn't recording, the footage is missing.
Right. So you purposefully moved your camera around to
Yes.
record each of them. Did they try? Did they or did they give you a hard time about that?
No, not at all. Nope.
Okay.
It like
And
I
you said
said,
that the whole dynamic changed
it did.
once you brought that up.
Yep, it
And so
did.
they didn't take your phone from you.
Nope. Didn't take my phone at all.
Right.
Let me, yep, yep.
Okay, here's the other question, and this is not a fair question, but it is an interesting question because you shouldn't have to worry about this. But why do you think they went after you? Because you weren't. I don't think you were open carrying. So why do you think the guy said that you're by a courthouse, but it seems like they knew you had a gun?
Yes. So here is my speculation, and I can't completely prove this. I've got a lot of resources here in town, and talking with other people, and we're trying to connect the dots if there is a relationship between the establishment that we had lunch and this lieutenant. Okay.
In other words, whether that establishment ratted you out in some way.
Yes,
Yeah.
there. I'm scared. I saw his gun in because what I do is I carry it IWB inside waistband in the back by my inside my belt by my kidney, but it is a larger Glock, so it does print. Okay, so it probably was printing, and maybe and that's what it's called, printing, when your gun can be seen, like the outline of it on your. And also, we were sitting at benches, and so there was no back to it. And my shirt, it's big, but maybe it should be bigger. And I don't care. I'm not. I don't mind if
Yeah,
my.
that's sure, and if you can open carry, then that's perfectly fine. You should not be accosted by the police for open carrying.
And in this restaurant, it is what you say, progressive.
Eh,
But they don't have signs
regressive?
up. Well, well, let's just say that as we were sitting there, my client is from a southern state, not Florida. Gabe, that's an inside joke. And
Florida's not a southern state in any way, shape, or form, including the Panhandle, because we have to set limitations.
yep, you've set me straight on that. And he's very much into Second Amendment, and so as we're sitting there, kind of talking about guns and stuff, which may have the staff there could have overheard it, or the patrons that are also very progressive that are there. As we're talking about it, I look and I notice on the patio that we're on with that's facing the street, there was 3 pride flags hanging out. And you know what, Gabe? I don't really don't care, and I don't pay attention to that, and I've never even noticed them before.
Most important question, I guess, are you going to change any of your behaviors or approaches after this incident?
Yes, I will never go back there again. I'm going to go back. Yeah, I will never go. I'm going to really consider what places I go to,
Right.
and if I am carrying the consequences of someone freaking out because someone has a gun. And so what the and it wasn't that busy. It was kind of a chilly day, and so there was just a couple people there, and maybe it was a guest that was there, a patron, but most likely it because of the kind of the background of this establishment. It probably was one of them. They did not want to create a scene there and have the police come there because the majority the majority of Sioux Falls and South Dakota is very conservative. big on gun rights, and so I don't think they wanted to alienate, their take a position on
It
that.
wouldn't be good for business. So maybe what they did is they called the police. They said, "Hey, we're concerned about this person. We don't want you to do it here because it wouldn't be good for us, but we'll let you know when they leave and what direction he's headed. Could you please have a conversation with him?"
Yeah, and I think it goes one step further. I am fairly confident with the people that know this officer and stuff like that, and some of his history. He probably got a phone call from someone. It was a direct call. Being the second lieutenant of an entire shift and being the one to take a call like this, I mean, he came in so hot. He had an agenda. He
Right.
had an agenda. So most likely, can't prove it, but most likely he got a call from somebody at the establishment and said, "Hey, can you check on this guy? He's leaving right now."
Well, it seems like the people of Sioux Falls should be concerned. Dallas should be very concerned. It sounds like there are thugs with guns who are patrolling the streets, accosting people with a license to kill and elevated levels of aggression.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm just going to say a little more, and I'm just going to say this publicly because I don't care. I do have connections, and these are going to be. I'm not going to, what do you call that when the press says can you? I'm not going to confirm who these people are, but I do have connections within the state, and this second lieutenant does have a history, aggressive. What is it called? Police, excessive force complaints. Aggressive in arresting and so forth. There's a lot of complaints on him. So if I would have really given him a stank, he probably would have taken me down, put me in cuffs, and do that typical thing they do: stop resisting, and then just
Right.
push their knee in harder.
It's like that video where the police officer's punching somebody while for like 30 seconds while he's saying stop resisting arrest and the guy's in handcuffs.
Yep. Exactly. So, and you know what? And I could already tell these other cops that were there with him. They're all going to back each other up.
Oh yeah, that's
He
their people say that police, loyal to no, they're loyal to themselves. That's their number one loyalty. And then they're local to the government, obviously, and somewhere the people is pretty far down the line. Let's just be perfectly honest about law enforcement these days.
And the thing too is, definitely, the deputy did get involved a little bit, and he's asking me these stupid questions. Judge, so you live here permanently, and just these stupid questions. And I'm like, I don't answer questions. The trooper just backed up, and he was like there for backup. But even the deputy, I don't think they would have gotten involved with being aggressive with me unless I resisted. If I truly resisted and I tried getting away or something, they probably would have been on me. But if this thug wanted to, get aggressive with me, they probably just would have watched. They wouldn't have participated in it.
How much do you think we'll call it the icification of America, where
Yeah.
there's obviously there's a ton of people in this country who are not supposed to be here and we don't want here, and so there's been a move obviously with a right wing presidency to have emboldened police, federal police, obviously ICE. Do you think this would have happened to you in the same circumstances, let's say 2 years ago?
I think so, but on the same side here of the coin, they are getting more emboldened. They're doing this like Prairie Thunder or something right now here in South Dakota, that they're going and making all these arrests, these high profile arrests. Like, look at how we're, arresting all these bad people. They're extraditing people in prison that are not, that are undocumented or whatever, and they're sending them back to their home country. So that was just in a headline in a local paper. So there is a lot of that going on. I think that does embolden them. It gives them a little more confidence that, hey, we can do what we want. We're on high alert here because we're on this, rolling prairie thunder, or whatever the stupid name they called it.
I think it is Prairie Thunder. I see something about it, and of course, at the end of the day, they might say, "Oh, even if I did the worst possible thing, maybe I'll get a pardon."
Yep. Oh yeah. What is it called? Qualified immunity or whatever. Yeah. And there's a big record here in South Dakota. The police, the people complain and that, or but
Well,
they
it's the home of Christy Noem, and
Yeah.
we know that she's not. There's this weird thing about in conservative politics about freedom and then policing, and I don't know how they thread the needle, but they seem to be able to in their minds.
Yeah, and then when the police, investigate themselves, what do you think the outcome is going to be? Or the state investigates the police, which they're an agency within an agency. Yeah,
Right.
what's going to be? There really not much happens here. And there's a lot of people that do constitutional, federal cases on. I've talked to a couple reporters here. There's a lot of people that will do the, constitutional federal cases here at the federal court in town, and they almost always get dropped. They don't go very far. So really, when it comes out, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about. Well, what I want to talk is wrap this up into the privacy thing. Okay, so let's if you don't mind, if I can kind of drive this a little bit, Gabe. Where it's really important is, okay, so driver's license, your ID, not having your place you sleep on your ID is crucial. They got my ID, but it's not where I sleep. Okay, so that is very important. If I was in my car or wasn't in my car, they wouldn't have had. The other thing, just regardless of that, they don't even know that I have a car. When they check my ID and my driver's license, they're not going to see any associated vehicles because that's with a totally different entity. So if they wanted to, harass me and to continue to intimidate me, if this really went south and this bully, couldn't let go of it, which that never happens with police, right? They don't know where I sleep, and they don't know what vehicle I drive right now at this time. They don't. So that is really important for privacy. That's huge, and that's important. Practicing and understanding. Don't answer questions, understand your laws and so forth. And then I'm going to I'm going to get a pen, not a pen, but a body camera, a body cam. It's wider than a pen, but it's fairly big, but it's a pen style. Fits into your collar a little bit, or on your button down on a polo or something. It can fit inside and clip on the outside. And it just continually loops and records. I'm going to do that because if you don't have time to get your phone ready, that can be a world of difference for your evidence for your situation.
That's wild, but those are good points at the end there. Sorry this happened to you, Dallas, but you're in good spirits about it. You're the last person who's going to change his habits based on this. You share often these police brutality videos with me, so you're well versed in all this stuff. So you're a good person. If it were to happen to anybody, I guess it may as well happen to you. Let's move on to some Q&A here then, and we'll start with South Dakota and Portugal. If the answer is no, then no. Any updates worth mentioning about South Dakota and Portugal? Question number 1. Can one opt out of Real ID when applying for a South Dakota driver's license?
Okay, so this is something, Gabe, where you can provide information on this that I don't think the privacy books have ever touched, and this is fairly new. But there's some educated concern about Real ID and how it connects together with the whole database system. There are people out there that are asking me, can I opt out of Real ID in South Dakota when I get my driver's license? And which makes sense because your passport is Real ID. You don't need nobody needs a driver's license with Real ID.
Right. Real ID is required to go onto planes, and maybe onto some federal facilities, but I think that's the limitation. So if you don't need to do those, or if you have a passport
No,
that can handle
passport.
that, then yeah,
Yep.
you wouldn't need Real
Passport
ID
card.
on your
Done and done.
driver's license.
Yep. So I did check with the state, and you cannot opt out of Real ID in this state. There are a list of like 5 states. Maybe to save time here, I've been communicating with my clients on consultations about their concerns about Real ID, and I've got some great information from them, and that's beyond the scope of this conversation. And I am just learning about it new. So this is something I learned so much from these consultations and the challenges that I'm presented with my clients, that this stuff is just so valuable, Gabe. And I'm just learning so much. So that's
So
something now.
you can opt out in South Dakota,
No,
but
no.
no, you cannot.
That cannot. Now, really quick here in South Dakota, I always recommend people get a driver's license and an ID card. They can only put Real ID to one of them. And so you can choose. Most people probably would get it onto their driver's license. You cannot. I specifically talked to the state. I'm going to ask a few more people and just double, triple confirm that. But who I talked to says nope. You have to. They do not have the option to opt out. The only thing you can do is if you can choose if you get both ID and driver's license, which one will have real ID and the other one will not. So
And the problem with the Real ID is that you're having to give more information
yes, that's a
to
very good
them
point. Yeah,
in
yeah.
order to get it. Is that that's the
No,
main
I
thing
don't
we're
think
concerned
so.
about?
I no, no. I think you should go to maybe people can do their own research and do some links on that. No, because they already have that by getting your passport. I think it's linked to databases different. You once you show your passport, they need a real ID in a driver's license or a passport to then bring you over to the South Dakota system.
So what you're saying is if you have a Real ID, then your activities with your South Dakota driver's license could link up to broader Real ID systems that are federal.
Yeah, that's the concern that people are
Okay.
having, and so there are people that are seriously trying to avoid, if at all possible, real ID on a driver's license because they already have it on their passport and they don't want to have it on other IDs if they don't need it.
Well, Christy Noam is a big fan of Real ID. I remember her tweeting out some stuff about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Somebody's asking here, can a sole owner business opt out of paying into the unemployment insurance? We're talking South Dakota Nomad residents, presumably with this.
So I'm getting a lot of these questions, Gabe, and this has been a discussion I've had with clients, for quite a while now. But people really need to understand this. I love these clients with these questions because they are big picture strategizing their financial strategy. So what this really involves in is when you are so successful with your own business that it's more cost effective for you to then become an employee, a W 2 employee of your own business, and then you pay yourself, you incorporate, and you pay yourself a wage that the IRS says, yes, that's a wage for that specialty or whatever, that profession, and then you keep everything else in your corporation and that doesn't come over to your personal taxes where then you have to pay more taxes and more liabilities and you can have more write-offs. You can leverage your write-offs on your corporate taxes, your S corp taxes. So what people are doing is then they're hiring themselves, they're getting a W-2. Now when you do that, if the state requires you to create an unemployment insurance account, if you're claiming that state as for your LLC and your basically for your LLC and so forth, with that's your primary state of business, you should create an unemployment insurance account and pay into that to then so that you can take unemployment if you fire yourself or if you lay yourself off or your work dries up. You can then take unemployment. Some people don't want to do that. They're like, no, I just want to opt out. I don't want to be involved in that. I don't want to, I know if something happens to my business, I'm not going to go to the state for unemployment insurance. This is different than people who say you can't get unemployment insurance. You can't W-2 out of South Dakota anymore because the laws have changed. That is completely different. That is working for a large company that is not into the W-2 system, and you have a PMB on your W-2 address. The state's going to say no. We're not going to allow that person to be into the W-2 system in the state. There are ways to mitigate that as well. We have been successful with that, but that's a whole different. These are really complex situations. But I just want people to understand, if you want to say, okay, well, I don't want to have to be denied for the UI because I don't really live in there. I have a PMB address, but it's my own sole company. I can't just opt out and then have everything based out of South Dakota and not have to do the UI. So that yeah, so that's the skinny there. You will have to go into the UI system here for W-2 if you want to claim on your W-2 that South Dakota is your tax state.
Got a question here. I get this sometimes. Somebody saying, I don't understand why you keep talking about South Dakota residency. Let me try to summarize this if in case it's not clear from the previous stuff I've done on this. If you're a serious privacy seeker, or freedom seeker, the first question you're going to ask is, where's my jurisdiction? Right? Where do I go to sleep at night? And who knows where that is? Like, privacy is not, private digital privacy is far down the line. It's not important compared to the actual real physical privacy. And so a serious privacy seeker is going to ask, what is the address that I give to people like banks, like potentially the employer? During COVID, people asking for your home address that has serious consequences. What address do I give? If you can legitimately say that you're a nomad, you're traveling around, you're not claimed by any state, South Dakota is a very desirable place to be claimed by, and go to a service like Dallas Privacy Post.io and have a legitimate virtual mailbox service, a legitimate address that you can give out to all these institutions. And then, you go about your life not getting claimed by another state. And you have the benefit of South Dakota has a lot of this infrastructure of these private mailbox services, such as Dallas's service, which is really the only one I would recommend because of his privacy practices. So that's why we talk about South Dakota residency. And it has a number of other advantages. If you're planning to go international, it's a good idea to set up shop or have your state be South Dakota as opposed to California or somewhere else. So you can also receive your mail there, have it shipped to you, have it scanned to you, all the rest. So these are a few of the reasons why we talk about South Dakota Nomad residency. It really is the key for people who are serious. They're not, fiddling around with Graphene OS or some kind of fake privacy diversion. They're serious about their privacy. That's the kind of stuff that they do. Anything to add to that, Dallas?
Yeah, I would just like to say this. The other week I was at a kind of a Reddit battle with somebody who on a thread that was saying this picking a state when I'm an expat, it's all myth. You don't need to pick a state. It's all BS. Show me the law. You know, and what's really important for people to understand is if you don't pick a state, the state you left will choose for you.
Right.
And if that state is California or the East Coast and you're gone for 5-6 years, and let's say things didn't work out and you come back and then you move to, let's say, Tennessee, where in that last 5-6 years when you were gone and you're saying, well, I didn't claim taxes in California because I wasn't living there, but you came back to the States and maybe you do come back to California for some God unknown reason. That 5 or 6 years you were gone and you didn't file, California taxes, income taxes, they may say, yeah, we want our money. Or if you come back and from your travels and you settle in Tennessee or whatever, the California could say, you didn't claim Tennessee until now.
Right.
We're your state. We want our money.
Yeah. South Dakota, no state income tax, one of the other benefits of it. And if you go to Sioux Falls, if you're not being accosted by the police, it's a nice place. So one more question, and then we'll move on to more general privacy topics. Can you clarify your service Privacy Post versus World Post and what people should be looking for? Because there's a person or two who have been confused by that.
Yep. Good question. And I understand the confusion. So, and now on the FAQ, when people inquire about Privacy Post, I will provide them the FAQ that very clearly defines the two and gives kind of comparison, like in this little matrix. There are maybe 20% of the people that are interested in privacy and come over to Privacy Post. The Privacy Plus, the smallest plan at $375, it really doesn't fit their budget. And they have other circumstances.
$375 per year.
Yep. They have other circumstances where they're like, my wife, she's involved with the mail and she's not into this privacy stuff. She's not going to be, I have to do this all on my own and check the email and blah, blah, blah. So we do have some questions and we go back and forth. And then I offer on the World Post side, it's called a hybrid, where I basically took the privacy simple and moved that over to World Post. And that World Post then has a lot of the privacy features, your IDs, your 1583 doesn't touch the cloud. Your communication can still be in secure comms. You can choose to have some scans come over Proton, but your generic scans and your envelope scans are going to be in the cloud. And right now at this time we use Anytime Mailbox. And I'm pretty clear with people when they sign up how to differentiate the two, and I'm getting better at it so that they don't feel like it was a bait and switch.
Just
and if it
summarize,
is Mm-hmm.
Also, just to summarize that, because you added a few more vocab words to that. So if you're listening to this show, then you want privacypost.io. It's going to be more costly, but it's going to be what we've talked about, which is there's no back end. Okay, we're sending Proton Mail to Proton Mail. all that kind of good stuff. And that comes at a cost to Dallas. That's why that's more expensive. He does have, as he's saying, World Post is a more traditional, it's piggybacking off of another backend for a company. There are a number of privacy features that Dallas offers in that, but in the end, it is kind of a backend of another a third party. And so, as he said, it's a hybrid approach. Now, if you're listening, you're going to pay up and you're going to go to privacypost.io. Dallas is a very considerate person, so when he's talking to people, sometimes if he feels the situation out and he thinks somebody, oh, you're not really interested in this hardcore privacy, you will try to save people a few bucks. So that's what's happening in some of these cases. But I've kind of told you, Dustin, I'm like, hey, just funnel these people into Privacy Post. It's for their good and obviously for your good as well. And everybody's
Yeah,
listening knows what's up. Privacypost.io.
yeah. You're right, and I'll have to say something about World Post has had positive unintended consequences when I spun up World Post because I needed more revenue channels, as I said in other podcasts coming in. Um, Privacy Post was not growing fast enough, and I was worried it wouldn't scale, and so I then started World Post. World Post has been a huge advantage for learning how the normal systems work, how the normal people game the systems, how they try to fidget with the address to make it look like a home address. All of those things that is not happening in the my Privacy Post peeps are just like rock solid. But I am learning all these other games that people play, and it seems like people are they'll have more tendency to play those games when they're only paying $7.99 a month, and they're playing all those games and trying to trying to manipulate the address and get more out of it than the $7.99, and so that's been a great learning experience.
Okay. Let's move on to some more general privacy questions here. I know we had some other South Dakota questions. We'll get to that in our next edition of this. Somebody asks, do you have any experience with UPS pickup? I believe you, Dallas, do, Dallas. And I'll just say for the listener, what are we talking about here? Well, we have the problem as privacy seekers. We want to receive something. Where's it going to go? If it goes to our house, then that company and that mailing service knows who we are, where we live, parts of what we purchase. So that's a problem that we want to solve as privacy seekers. So we have all these strategies. We can kind of get halfway privacy with a UPS store box or a mailbox or something like this, but that's kind of only halfway privacy, I would say. We have the Amazon lockers, but that's a limitation, only the things sold on Amazon. So we're always trying to figure out this problem. UPS Pickup is a service that UPS offers where you don't have to have a box with them, and you can have something shipped to a UPS store to pick up. But as you discovered, Dallas, it's you can't use a pseudonym, right?
No, you need to have an ID. It needs to match. Your ID needs to match the recipient on the box, and they're very firm. I tried to kind of social engineer to pick up something at a UPS store. And to a little more detail with that, this was an item that was too big for an Amazon locker, and Amazon gave me the choice to send it to a specific UPS store that was like a pickup point. Okay. I think if it was like, and there's no Whole Foods in town. If it's an Amazon place, I think they're a little more lax, and you can show them your app and if they give you a QR code, they probably do when you go to an Amazon facility to pick up. I've heard that Whole Foods is they're more chill about it. But when you go to the UPS stores, I tried to find the newest and lowest IQ person there to see if I could social engineer them, and they wouldn't give me the package. So it ended up.
Sometimes those people, though, can ironically be the most stubborn, right? The old geezers, like, oh, okay, yeah, no problem. I wonder now. Obviously, we would encourage the reader, go test this out yourself. Go test this out. Let me know the results. See if you can get past it. It is a social engineering. Like that person at UPS does have the ability to say, oh, okay, like you have the receipt. Like you have the receipt. Okay, I'll let you take your item. Okay, so there's that. Somebody asked about a follow up about cellular routers that we discussed in the previous one. I wrote an entire good article on that in Watchman's Torch. So that's our newsletter. That's where all of the cutting edge privacy analysis has now gone, is into Watchman's Torch. Please subscribe to that, support the show, and you will be getting priceless information. That was in our most recent, that would be September 1st newsletter. So then moving on. Is a one-way ticket, let's say a plane ticket, to a location, a red flag? Presumably this person is saying that, hey, we have all these hidden social credit score kind of things that happen, right? And one of them is the list that you can get on if you're a naughty person, you criticize the government or something publicly, and you try to take an airplane, right? And there's all these little things. I once went to a country, and they pulled me over for secondary interrogation, did the whole thing. I got the guy to admit that, oh, you basically hit these red flags. You were coming in on a Monday, which is like a work day, a person of my age, of my sex. It hit all the red flags for them. So that's kind of weird. But there are these red flags. Do you think, Dallas, that a one-way ticket though to a location is a red flag?
I travel a lot, both international and national. And pre-COVID, yes, I would more often get flagged. I can't remember what the code is on your boarding pass, but then I would get another check at the gate, and they go through all my luggage and stuff. Since COVID, and I think because the
Going
airline,
between countries, international travel, you talk
yep.
about, right?
And
Okay.
even once I got to the States, and if I was connecting through, with a one way ticket, from, I don't know what, New York to Chicago or something like that, it was more apt to be checked because I had a one way ticket. Now, since COVID and the whole airline industry, I think has really shifted. It's so common now. If you notice when you go do your airline hacks, it's not like, oh, it's going to be double the cost to get two one way tickets. I mean, double the cost of getting two-way tickets versus getting a round trip. It's no longer like that, like it used to be. It can be a little bit more expensive, but you can hack flights. And I think it's so much more common for people to do that. And with all these apps, these travel apps and stuff, that it seems like having a one-way ticket is very common now. And I don't think it's as big of a red flag as it was before.
We have a question. What privacy services still need to be built, and we're in need of people who create them? I like this question, Dallas, because there's so many people who are just taking the super easy route. They're like, oh, let me make the seventh best encrypted messenger. And they're spending their time doing that, right? When we don't need that. Like we don't need that. What we need is more people like you who are learning how, like, all the stuff that you've done to learn, hey, here's all these databases, how addresses work, official addresses work. You'll talk to me for like 10 minutes. My eyes are glazing over all the detail that you've gone to establish a
Oh,
legitimate, no, in a good way, all the detail that
okay.
you've gone into to establish a legitimate virtual mailbox service, which is a very big need, right? We need things like this. We need services like private shipping, okay, and understanding all the regulations so that you're, in good standing with that. We need more people doing those sorts of things. We need more people like AirBTC that I'm going to be interviewing soon. Basically, no KYC Airbnb kind of thing. We need more people, privacy focused Uber, real things that people use on a daily basis, the lifestyle type things. We don't need, the 127th most secure Linux distribution. That's not a good use of your time. We need people doing some of these things. What are your thoughts on privacy services that we still need, Dallas?
I would say credit cards is the bigger one, and banking and credit cards. And I'm telling you, with this incident that happened, Gabe, I'm to the point now where I don't even know if I want to carry a credit card with my name on it, because it's almost impossible to get a credit card unless you have someone proxy it for you, to without your name on it, even if it's a business card. So I'm to the point now where I'm trying to figure that out, and I'm going your route, Gabe. I went and bought $100 gift card, and that's going to be my backup. If I can't get Apple Pay to work, or if I'm someplace that doesn't support Apple Pay, I'm going to use my $100 gift card, Visa card. I will not even carry credit cards in my billfold anymore because it has my name on them.
Wow, I love that, and you walk around a lot as well.
I do. I like to walk because in Europe, I walk so much more, and I'm here, I feel fat and lazy, and I just like fresh air, and I like to walk. And also because now this reinforces it, Gabe. When you're walking, you have more privacy. If you're driving your car 3 blocks to go get I don't know, a frappuccino, you have your privacy is invaded because of all the ALPR, and also then the opportunities to pull you over because you didn't turn into the lane you were in. You got a broken, blinker light, whatever.
Yeah,
You just, show me your ID. You're
that's
driving.
a
Show
very
me your
sad.
ID.
That's a very sad reality when you put it like that. That is pretty disgusting. So, what privacy creators do you listen to in general? For me, since Michael Bazell stopped, honestly, I don't really listen to any. And there's a big reason for it is that none of these are lifestyle oriented, right? And this is what we talked about with the people talking about often minutia land, talking about, oh, here's how to lock down your iPhone. Not a lot of these people look at privacy as a total. Oh, none of them that I can think of look at privacy as a totality. I don't care. I'm not worried about my encrypted email. I'm worried about, can I find a place to live with my name not attached to it? Those are the sorts of things I'm worried about. Go on an ongoing basis. How am I going to pay for this, privately? That's the kind of things that I'm concerned about. That's what we talk about in Watchman Privacy. That's what we talk about in these shows and our newsletter and things of this sort. It's the lifestyle stuff, and I just don't see people doing that. They're over talking about some kind of doom porn about privacy. Oh, it's the end of it's the end of privacy, or they're hitting really minutia laden topics. Like, hey, let's get into the super detail of the lines of code of Arch Linux or something, or they're just talking about privacy topics just generally. So it just doesn't do it for me, I have to say. Your thoughts on privacy creators that you listen to?
Same. Still listen to a lot of like cybersecurity podcasts, but as far as privacy, lifestyle, there's nothing out there other than you. There's is really that I'm aware of. That's in it, or it's worth listening to. I don't even know anything that that's even not worth listening to.
And
So
look, Michael Bazzell, we maybe said a critical thing or two at one point, but go ahead, come back. Come back. We'll pay for your $50 books. We'll listen to you. We'll send you a donation. Start accepting crypto though. Okay, somebody asks, can you talk more about LLCs and what a private LLC is? I've been given kind of the first answer. Do you want to take the first crack at that?
yeah, so private LLC is where you create an LLC, you register it with the state, and it has no association to your name. You are not the organizer. You are not a member. There's nothing on public record that has your name on it. I learned something new just the other day, Gabe, and we haven't talked about this. In Wyoming, if you create a member managed LLC, you have to give the registered agent your member names, the real people, at least one, if that's however you want to do it. You put it into their system, which is a cloud, probably a cloud janky system. It could and probably will eventually get breached, but they keep it on record if the state asks. It is not in the public record until that system gets breached. Whereas in South Dakota, from my understanding, that runs different, where you do not have to list. If you do a member managed LLC, you do not need to list the managers with the registered agent, nor in the system. It's optional, and you can keep that all internal within your systems. Probably you put it in your operating agreement or something like that, which is all private. You don't have to share that unless you're needing it for a bank account, and you don't need an operating agreement for a bank account unless you have multiple partners. It's always easiest to do a sole member LLC. So it's keeping your name off of all the public records. And I would take it one step further. Is people say, they spend all their money to get there, and all their focus is on their mail service to be private. Then they go to, registered agents. I can't use a name. That's Registered Agents International. Let's just say some janky service that you put all your shit on some janky cloud web service, and God knows how they're going to protect that data. And if that gets breached, or if they don't really protect it, or they don't divulge it, or they don't sell it, I think that's a huge waste of time that's a huge concern for people. They should really look at that when they're doing their LLC and they're using their personal information.
I think that's well said. There are a number of states that are known for not requiring. There are some states that are known for not making public your information when you register for an LLC. Traditionally, these have been Wyoming, New Mexico, is it Delaware, and
Yeah, probably.
Nevada. And you can, though, there's variations of this. We talk about how you can do that with South Dakota, but it has to be whether it's member managed or manager managed. I forget the details. That's in the South Dakota course that people should be going into. We go into details of that. So there's some nuances depending on where you go, but your goal is that there's the question of, does the state know who I am? There's what you pointed out. Is this service, the registered agent service, are they protecting my data? That's important, because if that gets leaked, that's not really private. And then there's the question of, is the state publicly displaying my information so that I go to some business entity lookup in the state of Washington, and I can go to your LLC and find out who you are and what your home address is and what your personal email is. So there's a few categories there.
Really, where you're only getting connected is if you get an EIN, and then you personally are connected to that EIN, but that stays within, for the most part, that stays with the IRS, is that you're connected to that EIN.
Right. And your state, let's say you have a Wyoming LLC, the state is not going to. That's a federal thing, the EIN database. That's for the federal eyes only, and IRS eyes only, presumably, theoretically. We're coming up on an hour here, Dallas. We can fit in maybe one more question. Any topics come to mind for you, or maybe I can see what else we have here.
Yeah, so what I would like to say is just reiterate a little bit more on my incident with my driver's license and my ID strategy and so forth. And I really impress upon people to really look at worst case scenario and somehow practice that out and be prepared for worst. In my head I would go through this, but I never expected this to happen to me. It can happen to anyone with a more serious outcome than me, And so be really prepared and be thinking about that. And one more thing I'd like to say about the driver's license and your address on your driver's license. Do not get a driver's license with an address on it where you sleep at night. Do not. And there's a strategy. One of my clients, we were just having a 1-year consultation follow-up after a year of service, and I've been doing that more. And this client I'm not kidding you, Gabe. This guy doesn't even know who Michael Basil is. I never heard of him. He is a JJ Luna fan. Is it JJ Luna or Jay Luna?
JJ.
He is a JJ Luna diehard fan. And he gave me a strategy get you on your driver's license when a state requires a physical address. You go to the homeless shelter. You say, I live out of my car. I don't have an address. What is the procedure? And you follow their procedure to use their address. What a way to just flip off all those agencies that want to know your address when they check your ID. It's like, first of all, it's going to confuse the hell out of them when you're driving a Volvo and they pull you over and your address is the local shelter. That's going to just completely asymmetrical, obfuscation. It's going to confuse them. And I think it's great. I think it's like just flipping the bird at this. I need to know your home address, and it's a great strategy. And I think I'll be deploying that in the next week.
Very good stuff. Very interesting. And JJ Luna, I think his section on digital privacy was basically, he says, yep, nope, which is refreshing and which tells you that the real privacy is to be had not in the digital realm. Very good thoughts here. Sorry that happened to you, Dallas, but we continue on, and your knowledge about this is going to help somebody else for sure, and yourself as well. So thank you again for joining me. This has been the Privacy Postmaster episode 2. If you have any questions, you want to send questions for us to answer on the next one, email me at podcast@watchmanprivacy.com. Otherwise, please check out Dallas's service, privacypost.io. You know where to find me. South Dakota Nomad residency course, priceless information. Dallas contributed a lot to that. So thank you very much, Dallas.
Okay, thanks. And never give up your privacy over convenience. Never.
Hey, thanks for listening. I could really use your help real quick. If you could share this episode with someone, engage with me, leave a review anywhere. This helps me to break the technocratic shadow banning that is happening with my brand. And of course, if you really want to escape the technocracy, go to escapethetechnocracy.com. Privacy tutorial series, books, newsletters, consulting, and of course, you can leave a donation. Thank you very much.